You'll be calling your lawyer? Just what I want to hear. As a former school board privacy officer, I dealt with many FOI requests from the public that dealt with anything from salaries of senior employees to value of contracts awarded to emails about routine business. Occasionally someone would submit a very complex request that would require a lot of time to complete. So it was with one parent who wanted thousands of emails, committee meeting minutes, reports, and the personal notes of a dozen different school board employees. The reason? She had requested that her children's bus stop move from the entrance to the cul-de-sac she lived on to right in front of her house. While the difference was only about 109 yards, the request was denied because the circle at end of the cul-de-sac was too small for the bus to turn around. After working on the request for more than a month, she grew impatient and demanded to know what was taking so long. I tried to explain I was a one-man operation, but she started making accusations that I was part of a conspiracy against her. She demanded that I produce all the records immediately or I will contact my lawyer. Now, I'm smart enough to know that anyone who says I will contact my lawyer doesn't have one, especially not one who specializes in freedom of information requests. But, playing along, I said, "Oh, we don't want it to come to that. I'll finish this today," and hung up. So I did. The legislation requires that we charge $7.50/15 minutes of search time for records, plus $7.50/15 minutes of preparation time, redacting personal information, eliminating non-responsive info, etc., plus other incidental costs, copying, printing, etc. Because I had to have ICT help with the emails and computer records, the charges added up rapidly. I called her back the next day and told her the first batch of records would be ready by the end of the week. Then I asked how she'd like to pay the costs. "The costs," she said. "What costs? How much?" $4,870, I said. "As I'm sure your lawyer will explain, 50% is payable up front before we proceed any further with the request. Then we can start on the next batch." Dead quiet on the other end of the phone. "You haven't heard the end of this? I'm calling," she shouted, and hung up. It is now 3 years later. Still waiting. Eat only in the designated area? Fine. This happened yesterday at a large regional grocery chain near me. It's the type of place with tons of gourmet and specialty departments, including ready-to-eat food and a little cafe area. The cafe includes a small gated-off outdoor space on the side of the building, which gets pretty busy as people are still hesitant to eat inside right now. There's also a hot foods bar that changes each day of the week. Yesterday being Saturday, and game day, the theme was chicken wings. So I was picking up my groceries for the week, minding my own business, when I'm hit with the most divine smell I've ever known. Mind you, it's a bit past noon and I haven't eaten all day. Next thing I know, I'm following the smell like a cartoon thief chasing a pie in a window. I find myself at the hot bar and, possessed by a force far greater than myself, load up a container of wings. I check out, now fully entranced with the aroma of buffalo sauce and knowing full well that these wings aren't going to make it home. I step outside and walk down to the end of the building and sit down on the concrete ledge under the awning, and I go to town on my chicken wings. Like, absolutely unhinged, raccoon out a dumpster, chowing the fuck down and not caring about anything else. Proudest moment? No. Would I do it again? Absolutely. It's bliss. Until suddenly, my chickeny meditation is interrupted by that deliberate type of ag hum that sounds less like a polite throat clearing and more like an engine trying to turn over. I look up and see a well-dressed woman, probably mid-40s, sternly tapping her foot and pointing behind me. Confused, I look over my shoulder and see the no loitering sign. I'm still not getting it. I've obviously got a cart full of groceries I just stepped out with. I explain to her that I'm just enjoying my hot lunch before I head home. She is having none of it. Either eat in the designated cafe area, or get out. I point out that all of the cafe tables are full, and I've just got a couple more wings. Then she delivers the kicker: "Figure it out before I call someone." Figure it out for you. Fine. I stand up, gathering my wings and leaving the rest of my groceries. I walk the 10 feet to the gated area, duck between the metal railings. The gate is about 10 yards down the way, look pointedly around at the occupied tables, then sit my ass down on the concrete and continue noshing my wings, looking this lady in the eye. She tuts and pulls out a cell phone, ostensibly to call someone to figure it out for me, but either it was for show or they thought she was as nuts as I did. because I finished my chicken wings in peace, albeit among a sea of confused patrons. Edit, thanks for the awards, friends. A couple clarifying points. No, I don't know whether Chic Karen worked for the supermarket or not. The more I think of it, maybe she didn't, since I don't remember seeing a badge or lanyard or anything. She was just dressed nicely. Was it technically loitering? Hell, I don't know. Those signs are usually put up around here to ward off panhandlers and other down-on-their-luck individuals. Morally it's awful, but legally I think they can kick anyone off their property on any grounds. Yes, it was a Wegmans. Good job, clever Redditor. Yes, I'll be going back. Maybe if I see her again, I'll just eat progressively more outlandish things on the sidewalk. I think they have baby back ribs on the hot bar sometimes. I told you I'm not who you need to talk to. So, first time posting, but I've enjoyed this site for quite a while. Please forgive any faux pas. And the length, this was longer than I thought it was. Some background, last year I, 34F, worked at a health system maintaining and updating their website and intranet. So while I am somewhat savvy when it comes to computers and tech, it's a completely different skill set from IT professionals and database/system admins. Since it was a health system, they had many processes and applications and databases that I have absolutely no clue where to even begin to understand them. Anyway, I ended up going on maternity leave in March 2020, just in time for things to go off the rails in healthcare. I had everything planned and organized, and was lucky enough to get 3 months off using my FMLA time. While I was out, I had an out-of-office email response indicating my return date as well as who to contact in the interim. When I returned to work, everything was crazy. Because I was a non-clinical worker, they allowed me to begin working from home 3 days a week. I found childcare for my baby so that I could focus while working. The biggest change was that I scheduled set times during my workday to pump so that I could continue to nurse and provide for my baby. As soon as I returned to work, I started slogging through my email backlog. Thankfully it wasn't too bad. I had communicated well before I left, and had a good team supporting me and backing me up. What I did notice was many emails from one particular salesperson. They wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss their product. And they completely ignored my out-of-office message. They'd sent me an email twice a week the entire time I was on leave. This was annoying, but no big deal, I thought. I just deleted their emails and moved on. I deleted them because 1, I assumed it was a mass email because they weren't paying attention to my out-of-office. 2, I could tell from their sales pitch that we wouldn't be interested, and 3, I'm not the one who makes those types of decisions. I deleted all the emails, and moved on to more important things. Well, this sales guy started calling the office asking for me, and even with being in office intermittently, he eventually caught me on the phone. At this point it was 5:15 p.m., and I was late heading out the door to get my baby from daycare. Sales guy, I'm so glad to get a chance to talk. Is this a good time to talk about medical database software? Me, I really don't think we're interested, and even if we were, I'm not the person you need to talk to about this. In fact, this is so far out of my wheelhouse that I don't even know who you should talk to about this. Sales guy, oh, that okay. I'm sure if we just talked through it we'd be able to answer all of your questions. Me, getting increasingly antsy because I'm running late. This really isn't a good time. And again, I'm not the person you should be talking to. Sales guy, I totally understand. How about I set up a time when we can talk through everything? I'll send you a meeting invite. Me, totally done with the conversation and wanting to end it ASAP. Fine. Let me know. I need to go now. Hangs up. Sure enough, the next day I get a meeting invite for a Zoom meeting. I just sigh and accept it, thinking that I'll just reiterate that I'm not the right person to talk to, and that maybe I'll actually learn something. And that maybe he's just an inexperienced sales guy wanting to practice his spiel. Only thing is, he scheduled it right during the time I've set aside for pumping. And there's no way this meeting that's been pushed on me for no real reason is going to force me to rearrange my schedule. So, day of the meeting comes. I'm working from home, wearing comfortable, but decent, clothes, and get all my pumping equipment out and get settled on the couch. I start pumping and I make sure that he can't see anything from the camera before logging into the meeting. I thought it was just a meeting between him and me, but no, he wasn't even on the call. There were 5 men in suits who called into this meeting with me, one of them the CEO of the sales guy's company. I'm a little shell-shocked as they each take turns introducing themselves. When it's my turn, I briefly introduce myself, explain what I do, and explain that I'd already told sales guy that I'm not who they should be talking to, and that I don't even know who that person would be. They are obviously all taken aback and don't know how to respond to that. The person leading the call didn't seem to know what to do, so he just continued on with the meeting. I sat there for about 45 minutes, while pumping, and listened to their sales pitch. I even asked a few questions just for the heck of it because this was totally new software to me and I figured I might as well learn something. When they finally finished their spiel, there was a couple moments of silence before the lead asked the CEO if he had anything he wanted to add. The CEO, who had been silently watching the entirety of the meeting, slowly leans forward and says politely, "You said that you explained to sales guy that you weren't the person to talk to, is that right? Can you elaborate on that?" So I did. I told him about my out-of-office emails being ignored, and how I had tried multiple times to explain. He nodded quietly, and then they ended the call. I'm not sure what happened to sales guy, but he, and his company, never contacted me again. Remove our admin permissions, we will wait for the grief to come pouring down from above. This happened about 20 years ago, as I was starting my IT career. The organization I was working for was an early adopter, and had just rolled out Windows 2000, and delegated control was still a good idea a long way off being implemented. It was discussed making this happen by the SYS admins, but not implemented to allow the help desk to have granulated permissions, but this had not been worked out yet. I was still on the help desk, and worked with Alec. Alec had been around, since I think Noah was building the Ark, and possibly handed him the hammer when needed, so Alec knew everyone and had interesting stories to tell. If Alec is on here, he can tell his own stories. The computer corporation that the organization had hired to manage second and third level escalations above help desk decided that the lowly help desk peons, Alec and I, could not have domain administration permissions anymore, as we were doing the work and taking cases off them. That meant they could not justify as many man-hours they were charging our organization. So on Wednesday night our accounts were removed from the elevated permissions, without notifying us. Possibly our managers were notified, but not what the implications were. Here comes the compliance. See, all we could do now was catch and dispatch, nothing else. Simply take the call, and log it into the help desk system, saying someone needed their account unlocked to be able to work, someone else wanted to change their password, as they had forgotten their password, and another person needed access to a specific folder on the file server/s. This is all run-of-the-mill level 1 tasks that take seconds to complete. However, not this Thursday. See, the computer corporation that day needed to do their weekly team building meeting, that I was not privy to, not working for them. However, I am sure they were told how much extra money they would be making doing all these extra cases. Alex started after me, as he then had the later finish, so I explained our lack of access now, and that we would have to simply catch and dispatch calls now, with the computer corporation doing all the work. This is boring and what gives help desk roles a really bad name. Alec wanted to go our managers to get this changed immediately, however I convinced him to comply with the corporation's diktat. We would allow the people directly affected by not being able to work to complain to their managers, then they would complain to ours, so we don't look like we are being difficult to the computer corporation newsstands, whom we had to get along with. Oh yes, they did complain. The manager for computer corporation got hauled out of their team meeting to fix things up, so we could do our work and our colleagues could then do theirs. When their manager asked why we did not say these cases were backing up, we replied we could not change/unlock passwords, and they were busy in their meeting and we were asked previously not to disturb them. Petty, I know, but we did get our admin rights back before lunchtime. Also now things are massively changed and domain admin rights are not handed out so fast. But this was early days of Windows 2000. Alec, you magnificent bastard, hope you are still kicking goals, and this brings back memories.